Hello and welcome to a Thursday edition of Starcast Planet Waves TV. Today's edition is for the 13th of February 2025. I am not writing an article this week. I'm taking a day off from writing, but I have a lot to say, and I think that the video format's going to be very helpful to convey that idea. And what I want to talk about is what is going on in the United States chart, because as many of you are wondering, what the holy heck is going on in the United States with this Department of Government Efficiency seeming to take over and whole like appendages of the United States government being lopped off, and agencies having their signs covered with cloth and being told that everyone is going to be fired. And then throughout the rest of the government, the buyout of federal officials is being allowed to proceed. A federal judge allowed that to proceed, I guess, pending, probably as everything is, pending further appellate review. So anyway, I'm here in video. I am still getting this video situation right, getting it better, and I realize there's like reflections in my glasses right now. I'll have to just pretend those are not there till we figure out how to solve them. I'm doing the best I can. Video eats light. It takes a lot of light to make video, especially during the day. You've got to illuminate the whole thing, and everything's got to have a light facing onto it. So anyway, so what I'm planning to do in this discussion is I'm going to talk about the United States chart. It's called the Sibley chart. And the chart that I use is the 5:10 p.m. chart. There's a very similar chart for 5:13 p.m. Created by Dan Rudyard. It's in effect, it is the same thing. And the thing with, there's a whole controversy in astrology that seems to go back to the 1960s when astrology became popular again, about what is the right chart to use for the United States. And they come down to a bunch of times of day on July 4th, 1776, and then someone named David Soltay came up with a chart for November of 1777, which was the like establishment of the Articles of Confederation. But the thing is, with what I'm saying here, basically, it's all the same thing. And the reason it's all the same thing is because I'm talking here today to talk about the United States Pluto return. And when you look at the Pluto return for any of those charts, it comes out approximately the same thing. The Pluto return is happening in our era. So first I want to just briefly talk about what a planetary return is. A planetary return is when a transiting planet comes back to the place in your natal chart that it was when you were born. And these are important events. They are especially so for planets like Saturn. Everyone's heard of their Saturn return. Most of you listening know enough astrology, know enough astrology to have some concept of your Saturn return. If you're approximately age 59, you're having your second Saturn return. And other planets that can return are Chiron, that's a slow mover. Jupiter returns, but it returns every 12 years. So there's a lot of them in the course of a lifetime, whereas most people will have two, and if they're fortunate, three Saturn returns. You have to be about 97 to have your third Saturn return, so most people have two of them. And you generally have one Chiron return at around age 50. And so anyone who's looked at these things, and particularly who's done astrological work around them, knows that they're very important events. Most things in the world do not live to age 250. And by that I mean republics and dynasties and houses of royal lineages and so forth. Don't make it to 250. Very little makes it 2.5 centuries. But the United States, under one guiding concept from whatever you choose, 1776 or 1777, has made it to this 2.5 century mark. And so that means that Pluto, which has a 248-year orbit, has returned to its natal position. Now, if we're talking about 1776, then it would have returned to the, I'm not ready with this math, but what's 1776 plus 248? Well, so things have been pretty wild in the world and in the United States, but they're really intense now in the United States under Trump 47, Trump 2.0, and all of these tech billionaires hanging around the presidency, hanging around the White House, being in the Oval Office. It's like the notion of an oligarchy, which was like, well, we're not really a republic, we're an oligarchy, because there were these times when like J.P. Morgan would bail. I think he bailed out the federal government 3 times. J.P. Morgan bailed out the federal government personally 3 times. At a time when the federal government was quite small comparatively, and there were not, a million workers making, $40,000 to $200,000. It was a whole different concept of a government at that time. But nonetheless, the oligarchs had a lot of power. But now, any pretext has been completely stripped away, and Trump can have a press conference in the Oval Office where he's being interrupted by Musk, the son of Elon Musk, and Musk is standing there kind of like in a trench coat and blue jeans, reminding us that there's absolutely no longer any protocol left, but that's another facade that has been stripped away. So anyway, planetary returns are important moments in the life of anything, and by that I mean slow-moving outer planetary returns. So, Saturn, about Chiron, you may know about if you're over 50. And then people who are 84 years old, and I happen to know a good few of them, are having their Uranus return right now. Most people don't make it to their Uranus return. And the United States is having this exceedingly rare return of Pluto. And we are in this huge upheaval. Now, those of you watching though, let me see if I can get these, maybe clear glasses will work better. I don't know. Yeah, well, okay, a little bit. So weird. Wearing glasses is still a little weird. If you're following the Pluto return issue, you know that the actual Pluto return of the United States was in 2022, and this was a big issue in 2018, 2017. During the first Trump administration, was getting all the press. People were writing about it, and then suddenly the issue quieted down, and even for the exact Pluto return in 2022, it just seemed to not be a topic of conversation. But then again, I'm not that tapped into the astrology community, and we no longer really have national astrology publication. I think Dell Horoscope's gone. The Mountain Astrologer is completely transformed into something kind of useless. And so where's the discussion? And I would add, where was the evidence of the return in the real world in 2022? So in my approach, let's call it my journalistic real world approach to astrology, we would have to see a direct representation of the events involved for the claim of some kind of an astrological event to have relevance, right? What's the point if there's not something going on? Now, people like to predict things, so that's, the predictors always have their chance ahead of time to get in with them. I mean, I'd like to see a panel of all the people who were predicting things in 2012 account for why they did not accurately predict anything. Know the story. And no Western astrologer had a good theory of 2012 except for me. And I wrote a series of like many articles about this, and probably could do a video on it. It was a theory about relationships. That was my theory of 2012. Okay, so meanwhile, I want to let's take a look at the Pluto return chart and get right, not quite right, but into the discussion. So this is I'm starting to work with a two-camera system, one camera on me, and then I can put one onto the chart. I'm going to be doing the astrology studio readings this way. I started with Aquarius and other teaching examples because rather than just holding the chart up, which is sometimes fun, I'm going to be able to actually look at the chart nice and solid on your screen. We'll also include the chart with this edition of Planet Wave. So let's switch cameras. Nope, that's the wrong kind of switching cameras. Okay. Ta-da. Okay, making its debut in video format, the Declaration of Independence chart. And what I'm here to talk about is why, from an astrological standpoint, all this stuff that is happening now. So here's Pluto in the US chart. Pluto is at 27 degrees of Capricorn and 33 arc minutes. That was its position on July 4th, 1776. Okay, and this is the Saturn chart. All right. If you look at when Pluto was there in 2022. So there was really nothing special going on in 2022. In fact, we were kind of coming down from the complete chaos of the previous 3 years, 2020 and 21, so the previous 2 years. Biden was president. Things were suspiciously quiet, I think, during that era. But when an event happens, only every 250 years, 248 years, or 50, whatever, we'll see, you can expect it to have a long orb of influence in time. So a lot of outer planet activity has a 10-year orb of influence. I think that the US Pluto return goes back to when Pluto was in Sagittarius and made a conjunction to the ascendant with Saturn on the 7th house and Pluto on the first house of the United States. That was 9/11. So in August of 2001, Pluto was right there, and then Saturn comes along and makes the opposition, and boom, the U.S. goes into full-on self-destruct mode. That was 9/11. So I think that in terms of forgetting about the fact that the U.S. Pluto is in Capricorn and the 9/11 incident happens with Pluto in Sagittarius, that kind of whoever blew up the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, that kind of infrastructure collapse is very Pluto returny. Okay, so we're looking for real world symbols that you do not have to stretch. You dig me? You should not have to, like, add hamburger helper to the story. And so meanwhile, from 01 all the way to 22, it took 21 years for Pluto to cover from there to there. Basically, 1.5 signs at its fairly quick but slowing down speed based on its distance to the sun now. But still there was, okay, so 9/11, and then the 2020 crisis happens, and the 2020 crisis happens, I'm not going to use the P word or the C word or the V word, because I want this to be on YouTube, and they keep smacking me with strikes if I mention the P word, the C word, or the V word. should see the look on my face right now. That too was very Pluto returnish. That too was very Pluto in Capricorn acting up. The society was shut down, but then the whole world was shut down. Okay, the United States was kind of in a leadership mode. Fauci kind of takes the fall for 2020, but really it's coming out of Davos, it's coming out of Switzerland, it's coming out of Johns Hopkins, it's coming out of Gates Foundation. It's not merely the U.S. government as the lead actor, but Fauci gets his face plastered all over it and is kind of the fall guy and the guy who takes the credit for being a big hero. So, meanwhile, if Pluto has now, long since left Capricorn, why suddenly now is the U.S. government being carved apart, being carved apart like the Thanksgiving turkey? Like that's what we've got going on right now. The government is being dismembered. And by the way, if you're following my digital coverage, and I've done, I think, my best digital analysis ever. I've been on this since 2016. I was on the new Planet Waves FM, where I talk about the extend and dismember, the amputation effect of digital. Anything that involves amputation, particularly voluntary amputation, can be put into the "this is the digital effect" column. And that is because it is the main property of the electronic media to have this extend and cut off quality because it's so intense. But then it extends to other areas of life and not just consciousness, not just the digital haze, which is extend. Oh my God, it's so exciting, so exciting. I can text with somebody in India. Oh my God, this is too much. Everyone knows what I'm thinking. Everyone's looking at me. Everyone's thinking about me. Oh my God, I got all those hits. I got all those shares. This is not for me. I back off. Typical extend and cut off. But what makes digital media different is the extent of the participation. In the radio era, only radio broadcasters got to be on the radio. In the TV era up until cable, which is not really TV, cable, only TV presenters got to be on. And even if we're talking about public access, local cable, very few people got to be on that. Now with digital, we have total involvement. Case in point, my little office is a little video studio. Does everyone like my painting on the wall? Does anyone know where that's from? And why you think I love it so much? So this is the total involvement of the digital era. It's not just the technology. It is the total involvement of the times we're in, led by the technology of the times we're in. And no one is walking around without a video camera. Now, suddenly, everybody, including 10-year-olds, has a video camera. That is the extent of the totality of the involvement of digital. You must wrap your mind around this. This is not listening to Gene Shepard on WOR radio. Maybe you could write him a letter, and the chances were somewhat like 1 in 1,000 he would read your letter. You had no chance of involvement unless you had a radio career. So one of the qualities of the digital age is total involvement. That's why things are so effing crazy. All right, so now let's explain why in this chart, why pursuant to the solar return of the United States, so much is happening right now. Saturn, Pluto, every return, I could flip through the Rolodex of the different planetary returns. Pluto return. Why now? Why is the Department of Government Efficiency, add like 75 air quotes to that? Why now? Let's change charts. This chart, I've done a slightly The dog's going crazy outside my window. With the dogs barking, I'm like a mom with I'm like a woman with a baby crying. Like I cannot ignore the sound of dogs barking. I might go down and see what's going on if I was not sitting here totally involved in the digital environment. All right. Well, now what have I done? This chart is for the United States Declaration of Independence, the same chart as the Sibley chart below, but for the solar return, the return of the sun to the position of the natal chart, but precessed. What do I mean by precessed? The Earth is wobbling on its axis. That is what moves the precession of the equinoxes. And so the entire tropical zodiac, measured by the position of the sun on the first day of spring, is wobbling forward 70 arc minutes per 1 degree every 70 years. 1 degree every 70 years. And so at the end of 250-ish years, we've got almost 4 degrees of precession to account for. Now, you can cast your own solar return chart and add the precession, and if you're 50 years old, all your planets are going to be adjusted by approximately 3/4 of a degree. It's not that big of a deal. I don't really use solar returns. I have not found them to be helpful. And it's predictive-y. People are like, we're a predictive astrologer. We're going to use solar returns. I'm not a predictive astrologer. I'm a help you get your life together astrologer. Prediction is violates that credo. Okay, so however, for a chart that is for the solar return in the range of 250 years, yeah, you precess the chart. And the reason you precess the chart is to find out what is going on. Right? Astrology, I don't think, is about being right. Astrology is about what is going on. And so you might have to go through a couple of techniques until you really have an understanding. And I want to put my face on the screen to say this. No, me. It is possible, it is tempting to stretch and make up stories. And I would say that you need to know the feeling of stretching and making up stories, which is a very, very different feeling from leaving your judgments open and not coming to any conclusions and hanging out in the face of the unknown for long enough to wake up in the middle of the night and think, let's look at that. Let's check that. So astrology does not give up its secrets easily. And it is very easy because most people don't understand, because this is also technical, when an astrologer is completely full of shit. But they know when they resonate. If someone is truthful with themselves, you know when you resonate with someone. And most of the time it doesn't have anything to do with astrology. But astrology helps. Astrology helps us illustrate the point. So let's go back to this chart. Notice the position of Pluto in the precessed solar return. Pluto has moved out from 27 and change Capricorn out to 2 degrees and change of Aquarius. That's pretty interesting, especially given that that Pluto is exactly here right now. The position of Pluto at this very minute, 11:21:12 a.m. on Feb 13, the position of Pluto is 227. And so it is a half-degree conjunction. It's partile. It's right in the same degree. Well, there you go. There you go. Because this is a totally unique event. Something completely unprecedented is happening. Not only unprecedented, even in our age of unprecedented things going on, right? Where we live in the age of disaster capitalism, when the game is to shock people and then move on them, and then shock people and then move on them. And we are tired from this. Maybe not tired of it, but I'm telling you, we are tired from it. This is going on and on and on. This basically, when Bush and Cheney bombed Iraq, they called it the shock and awe campaign. Well, that's what they're doing to us. It is a shock and awe campaign, and the new era of shock and awe begins the digital era with 9/11 happening. I have a whole presentation on why the digital era begins. It basically begins on January 1st, 2020. But year 2000, sorry, Y2K. That'll be a cool podcast. But to have a man allegedly worth $500 billion standing there with the president of the United States, with his team of hackers, having access to your account in the United States Treasury, chopping off all these programs. And I'm not saying that it's all bad or all good. I'm saying that it is happening and that the PR campaign is designed for there to be something for everyone, a little something for everyone. So by which I mean, well, maybe my friend Ty Burnett was on Facebook this morning saying, well, I don't like that they were torturing hamsters to the tune of $3 million. Okay. And they're releasing the files from the Kennedy assassination. Ooh, that's got a lot of fans. And they're chopping all the DEI money, all the diversity, equality, and inclusion money, and they're, I guess there's not going to be, the bazillion dollars of federal funding for the Pride Parade in Oshkosh, Indiana. Oh, that's going to get cut. So there's a little, there's a little something for everyone here. And that is it's not all good, it's not all bad. I want to tell you it's not all good, it's not all bad is in itself a ruse. And the ruse of, well, like my friend John Rappaport, he's, yeah, I love John. And I try to, that's a Substack worth subscribing to, John Rappaport. It's daily. He's like 85 years old, and he is still Casey at the bat. And he was commenting on, it's not all bad, it's not all good, people love black and white. I'm saying, get the strategy. The strategy is, though there's a little something you like. Yeah, I'm all about not funding hamsters $3 million. Please swing that money to Chiron Return. I'll hire 20 investigative journalists and we'll kick some ass. We still kick ass. But $3 million for hamsters tortured with testosterone poisoning to make them fight with each other? Please. But that's how you get someone like Ty Burnett on board, and maybe for me you'll get me on board. Ooh, the Kennedy assassination files. But it's complete horseshit. It's completely irrelevant, and it is a public relations tactic. Public relations is the weapon of our lifetimes, and we, unless you're a publicist or you have had a publicist, don't understand public relations. Don't understand it. Heck, we didn't understand. I stumbled across some video, audio, probably audio or video from Marshall McLuhan last night. I was digging through disk drives, ancient disk drives that weigh as much as concrete blocks. And he said, we spend, this is him talking like probably around 1970. He say, we spend so much time glued to the television, yet we don't understand the basic grammar of television. And the people who are starting to understand the basic grammar of television are the people who do it other than to like run around with a selfie stick or yak out of their car. Even some of them show it. But this was not until digital demanded total involvement. Everybody had an effing video camera in their pocket that we start to get curious about it. That's a half a century later. TV's coming in the 1950s, and nobody gets in that whole long era up through basically the nearly contemporary, let's say the YouTube era, the grammar of television was not understood. But we do not understand the grammar of public relations. We don't understand the ways in which our minds are tricked and our defenses are bypassed, and we are convinced of things that are absolutely, completely not true, and our weaknesses are taken advantage of, and we are made our own ideals are basically sold back to us. The in the suffrage era, I don't have the date of this, and I think I have charted this once. There's the famous considered the birth of the public relations industry in some kind of, it was either the Memorial Day parade or the Labor Day parade or something. Some publicists thought, get some women in the parade, walking down the street, smoking cigarettes, strutting it, smoking cigarettes for everyone to see. At the time, there was movement toward women's rights and women's suffrage, and they sold that back to people as cigarettes. Now, you can tell me that cigarettes really made any woman more independent? Tell that to a woman on a ventilator with 1.5 of her lungs removed. So what the very first and then every subsequent public relations maneuver plays your own ideals against you. It captures some part of you. And so this a little good, a little bad, ooh, we're not going to torture hamsters anymore. Ooh, screw all those people that we're sending food to. I don't really like them anyway. Who cares if $500 million of food are rotting somewhere now because the USAID office can't pay its electric bill in, Africa. This is the maneuver. This is the trick. And what is important to notice is that in the actual Pluto return chart, Pluto's in Capricorn. It's about the government. But Pluto's in late Capricorn, and though it was retrograde at the time, it's all been enough years have gone by that Pluto has moved forward, and now it's still retrograde, but the precession has moved the position of Pluto forward into Aquarius. And so we're getting the Aquarius style Pluto return. The Capricorn style Pluto return is the style of the government. It's about the government, right? Capricorn, family, government, structure of society. The Aquarius Pluto return of the United States is about the people, but it's also about the elite. And so while it may seem like there's a lot going on that's affecting a lot of people, actually what's really going on is a kind of oligarchy of the elite, and also Aquarius is very much about, I don't need to point to it for you to see that, technology. You don't need to look too far to find the associations between Aquarius and technology and social patterns, right? The chart for the iPhone, a very important chart, which Cindy and I timed down to the minute. That should get one of these presentations. Well, that has Aquarius rising with Neptune rising, a total Trojan horse. And so all this Aquarius is really the phony populist, allegedly helpful, but nobody knows why. You don't need AI. I mean, I can think of so few applications for AI in my personal life that do not require a nuclear power plant in the form of 3 Mile Island, the half of it that's left after the meltdown being leased by Bill Gates to power an artificial intelligence data center in Pennsylvania. Why? Total technological control. Mine's not around here. The digital ball and chain of the iPhone, the constant tracking, the central bank digital currency tied to the real ID, tied to the vaccine passport, tied to the live virus, tied to the live the virus that is an AI virus. I would be happy. I feel like not everyone understands what's going on with the claims of these viruses. The viruses exist in silico only. You say, why do people get sick? Well, there's only 6 billion prescriptions a year sold in the United States, and none of them have, nearly none of them, have anything to do with the virus. 6 billion prescriptions a year in the United States? 6 billion? And I don't take any, and a bunch of you don't take any, ever. A third, I hear, don't take any. So it's 6 billion prescriptions consumed by only 2/3 of the country. Do some mathematics and find out how many trips to the drugstore that is for the 2/3 the people who are the prescription consumers. Why do people get sick? Well, most of them are getting sick from the fucking drugs. All right. So we are seeing Pluto and Aquarius, Pluto return. The Pluto return, not of the government and the oligarchs, the Pluto return of the technocracy. The technocracy, all these guys, Larry Ellis, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, all the guys in the front row at the inauguration, right? These were not the whale fishermen, and they were not the cabinet. It was the cabinet was in the second row. The technocracy was in the first row. That's Pluto and Aquarius. That's the Pluto and Aquarius Pluto return. And with that, I rest my case. I would love to hear your comments. I want to thank you. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're probably a paying subscriber. We're going to put this up on some other of the other video channels, but thank you if you are a paying subscriber of Planet Waves. In the spirit of, I love everyone. I'm a Pisces, and I make out with every dog out on the street there. But in the spirit of the Onion, of sending out publishing an article from the publisher T. Herman Zweibel, which said, "Merry Christmas, but only to our advertisers." I'm saying, Merry Christmas, but only to my paying subscribers. So really, thank you for supporting the project. We're at it all the time. I moonlight as a photographer, then I share the pictures. Every now and then I get to flip on my guitar amp, and then I share the music with you. So kind of like what I do, you find out about. I love it that way. And on your behalf, I'm happy to be sitting in a room with 10 video cameras, of which that is one of them. And if this painting intrigues you, and you know something about it, some people will recognize it. But if you're not currently a customer, I will send you a $150 gift certificate for the best little essay saying what that is and why I love it so much. Why I've got that thing hanging on my wall right now, talking about the technocracy. All right, so that's it. That's what I've got for you today. Horoscope is below the video. Thank you for your business, for your trust. Lots of love, and bye for now.